favorite things to talk about. So, dreams. If you are at the point in your journey where you're like, I am not dreaming because just drowning, I'm overwhelmed, something just happened, and it could be something that's good. It could be that you just had a baby. It could be that you just got a new job and you're like, I can't be dreaming right now. I just started this new job. But if you're at the phase where you are dreaming, this is called square two of the change cycle. There's four squares, and it's helpful to know where you are in the change cycle because then you're not putting undue pressure on yourself. You sort of know what to expect, and you're not taken by surprise when different things happen in that particular square of the change cycle. The change cycle, I heard about it from Martha Beck. She talks about it in her book, Finding Your Own North Star. And I also learned about it in the Wayfinder life coaching program. That's not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about dreaming. So if you're at the stage where you can actually think ahead and you think, wouldn't it be cool if blank? So this is for you people who are in the wouldn't it be cool if stage. I was talking to a client just last week, and she has a job in a clinic. She works in healthcare. It's very busy, very stressful. And she let it slip that her dream job would be a full time fiction writer. And this immediately made me think of like Sue Monk Kidd. She wrote The Secret Life of Bees and a lot of other cool books. But she was a nurse before she followed the call to become a writer. And she writes about this in her book, When the Heart Waits. That is an excellent book if you're at the stage where you're like, I don't know what's going on with me, but I've started having all these thoughts that seem to create dissatisfaction with my current life. And I have all these weird desires to do things differently. So if you're at that stage, When the Heart Waits is a really good book. So I asked my client if she had ever told anybody she wanted to be a writer besides me. And she said, not really. I mean, I'm not really good. And I said, how do you know you're not good? And she's like, well, I mean, I just write for fun. Okay, let me pause here and say that not all hobbies are meant to become your career. For some, making a living out of your hobby would put so much pressure on you that it would suck the joy out of whatever it is that you love doing. For other people, the idea of spending all day doing what they love would be a dream come true. You don't have to know right now. You don't have to, if you have an interest in pottery, you don't have to like know that you want to be a potter or that you don't want to be a potter. Like just for now, we're just going to sort of follow our curiosity and admit that we have a dream. So that's what this episode is about, just admitting it and what happens when you do. All kind of juicy things will come up. For my client, I said, have you ever written it down, like journaled about it? Because there is a lot of power in writing. I know most statistics are probably made up, but I have heard the statistic 30% of dreams that are written down will come true. And to me, that sounds realistic. I feel like if you believe in it enough to write it down, yeah, it seems like about a third of those would come true. Some people will say, like, throw it out to the universe. My mom would say, well, don't call it the universe, call it God. Just ask God what you want. However you see it, there's power in writing it down and speaking it because you're claiming it, you're owning it. I don't know if y'all have ever read The Alchemist. It's another good book. Paulo Coelho says, and when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. I love that because it's not all up to you. It's not like everything rests on your shoulders. The universe will conspire in helping you achieve it. I thought about starting this podcast for probably 2 years before I verbalized it. I told two friends we would always swap podcasts, and I told them about my dream. And of course, they were encouraging. I don't think I even told my husband because I don't know. Some things he's encouraging about, other things he would want to know, like, well, have you researched this? He's a researcher. I'm a quick start. He's a researcher. So, just pausing here to say, you got to be careful who you share your dreams with because if they think about things differently than you do, they're going to have a lot of questions and they're going to start creating this doubt in your brain. Like my mom, she means well, but she's always like, I'm just being realistic, Hope. And so if I'd said, Mom, I want to start a podcast, she would probably have said, well, that Hope, how do you know anything about podcasting? Isn't the equipment so expensive? Don't you have to pay a lot of money to have a podcast? Who do you think's going to listen to your podcast? And she's just being realistic, but it would start to create doubt in my brain. But once I verbalized to those two friends that I wanted to start a podcast, things started happening. There was a podcast that I listened to all the time, and the podcast host did an episode on how to start your own podcast. And then another girl I haven't talked to in 10 years texted me about something, and I found out she had a podcast. So I asked her, like, how did you start it? And she told me about Pat somebody who has all these YouTube videos on how to start a podcast. And then I was like, it wouldn't hurt to look at Amazon and look at like how much the equipment is. Cause in my brain, it was insurmountable. Like I was going to have all this audio equipment and it was going to be thousands of dollars. It turns out the microphone was under 100. The headphones, probably $80. And then the podcast platform was free. I use Anchor. So anyway, and then another serendipitous thing happened. And this is what you'll see if you can speak or write your dream. I was in this accountability group that had nothing to do with podcasting. And we still meet. There are 5 of us in there, and 2 of them had their own podcast. So they were able to encourage me and tell me what they'd learned and how to do it. When I mentioned all this stuff to my client, she immediately started talking about there's no way I can quit my job and become a writer. And I was like, no, no, no. I don't think you should quit. I'm not saying you should quit your job because that's not going to magically make you a best-selling author. But by just telling me that you love writing and that one day you would love to write fiction books, you're setting something in motion. I also, like I said, encouraged her to write it down. Jim Carrey, I may have told y'all this. He told Oprah this in an interview, but in 1985, he was an unknown actor. And he said in an interview later that he dreamt of walking down the street and being recognized as an actor. And this was before anybody knew who he was. And to put it in writing, he wrote himself a check for $10 million, and he wrote that it was for acting services rendered. Okay, so 10 years go by. He's like getting all these tiny little parts in movies or commercials, but nothing major, barely making enough money to get by. And then 10 years later, 1995, he receives a check for $10 million for Dumb and Dumber for acting services rendered. How cool is that? So, by writing himself that check, he was telling his subconscious that he believed it was possible. And if you believe something is possible, don't you think this is going to change your thoughts? So, you're going to be like, I can do this. I am an amazing actor. And then we all know, because I've said this, that your thoughts will determine your actions. So then he would probably go out for parts that, even if he weren't self confident enough to go out for them, or he would put his name out there, introduce himself to people. So your actions are what make up your life. So if you change your thoughts, you're going to change your actions. All right, so here's some steps I came up with. First of all, and we don't ask ourselves this often enough, what do you really want? Pause there. What do you really, really want? If you had unlimited resources and you didn't care what anybody thought, what would you do? Number 2, why don't you think you deserve it? So, this may not be the issue with you, but I see this so often with clients and with me. We have dreams. Maybe we don't even mind speaking them and telling people about them, but we have this little nagging part in our brain that doesn't think we deserve it. We think, why should I get X, Y, and Z? Who do I think I am to become blank? Um, this is an excellent place to do coaching because these are called limiting beliefs. So, whenever you did number one, what do you really, really want? I want you to remember, think back, what was the first thing that popped into your head? Like if you said, I really want to be a stage actress, what was the first thing that popped into your head? Like, what? Who do you think you are? Um, I've told y'all this that I tried out for plays when I was a little kid, and this was before I had an ego, I think, because I didn't care what people thought. And I had no singing ability. I had to go in, and this lady played a piano, and I had to sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat and Twinkle, Twinkle. And this was to try out for the part of Annie, which I did not get. Um, but if I'd waited until I was a teenager, my thoughts would have been like, oh, heck no, I suck as a singer. I cannot get up there in front of everybody. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, think back to what your mind balked at. And then I recommend doing some work around this. So, one of my favorite new things to do is it is safe for me to whatever. It is safe for me to dream. It is safe for me to have curiosity around things. It is safe for me to explore. It's safe for me to take action. My daughter had a class assignment when she started fifth grade a few weeks ago, and it was bring in a paper bag with things that sort of exemplify who you are. And so she said, I want to be president. So I'm going to put in $1 because one day my face is going to be on a dollar bill or whatever. And I could have said, now, Holly, you can barely do your multiplication flashcards. I mean, this is kind of an exaggeration. She can, but who do you think you are wanting to become president? But I didn't. I was like, that is a fantastic idea. Let's do it. All right, number three, remember the how and the why aren't up to you. I say this all the time to people I know and also to clients. They'll say, but how's that going to happen? But, and they have all these buts. The how and the why are not up to you. All you have to know is the what. What's in your heart? What do you dream of? What do you really, really want? Number four, ask yourself what's holding you back. What is holding you back? I'll get to this in a little while as far as excuses. But if you can really answer from a place deep inside what's holding you back, I think you'll get some insightful answers. Number five, if you did know the next step, what would it be? I love this question because people will say, I don't know. I just don't know. And I'll say, but if you did know, what would the next step be? Number six, I like to think of dreams as seeds were planted a long time ago. These seeds are there for a reason, and you shouldn't ignore them. Paulo Coelho, another quote from The Alchemist says, whoever you are or whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it's because that desire originated in the soul of the universe. It's your mission on earth. Isn't that he has such a way with words, the soul of the universe. All right, number seven. Remember, you're the one driving the bus. You get to decide. We give our power away by not taking action. Not taking action is the same thing as deciding. If my client decides she's not going to write, or not even decides, if my client just doesn't write, she's like telling the universe, I know I have this deep desire to write, but no, thank you. I pass. And this is, I wanted to tell y'all, this is the coolest story. So I don't know if you've heard about Liz Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and she's a wonderful writer. And she says that there's an expiration on our dreams if we don't act on them. So she had this idea for a novel that would be set in the Amazon jungle, and she had kind of the plot outlined, but she never did it. She just kind of had the idea. She was too busy doing other stuff and she never wrote the book. And she says she set her inspiration aside and it was like a lover left too long taken for granted. It might okay, this is the funny part. So Ann Patchett is another author, and Liz Gilbert swears that her idea migrated to Ann Patchett, who started writing a novel set in the Amazon jungle with a very similar plot. And Liz Gilbert had never spoken about her plot. She says, I don't think Ann Patchett copied it at all. I think that it was like, an idea that migrated to Ann's mind. Um, she says, if we don't engage with our creative ideas, they'll go looking for other willing collaborators. Wow. Okay, let's see. I like to also think of our dreams as like gardens. So if you water and you fertilize them, they're more likely to happen. We tend to go through life thinking that things accidentally happen. Have you ever had someone say, like, um, they'll say, I just suddenly realized that this job wasn't for me and I got fired. Or suddenly we found ourselves in the middle of a divorce. This is not, this may be how our brains think about it, but things don't just suddenly happen. You are the one driving the bus of your life. Where do you want the bus to go? Don't be asleep at the wheel. Let's see. Excuses. Oh, this is a good one. This is a really good one because I use excuses too. But are you playing the blame game? So I blamed not starting the podcast on my Southern accent. I was like, people won't be able to understand me. They'll make fun of me. I don't have the most perfect grammar, so I can't submit articles. But these were excuses. Another big group that I see get blamed for clients not following their dreams would be their families. So their husband or spouse, their kids. And they're like, my kids are little. I just want to appreciate this time. Yeah, but you're putting the blame of not following your dreams on your kids. You don't have to like leave home and leave your family, but you can still pursue your dream while you're being a great mom. So ask yourself if you have this sort of subconscious belief that I can't be a wonderful mom, spouse, whatever, and do whatever it is your dream is. Um, let's see. I've took down notes, but what benefits are you getting by not taking action? Okay, think about that. There's usually a benefit that you're getting to not acting on your dream. In the case of my client, when I asked her this, she said, well, if I don't write, I won't ever find out that I'm not a good writer if I don't put myself out there, which is so true. And I appreciate her being honest. Plus, she could stay in her comfort zone. She can play it safe. She she could stay in her job. The other thing, let's see, I think I skipped over one of these. Oh, taking your dream seriously. This is kind of part of the nourishing it. So Elizabeth Gilbert also said, this is so funny, that she dresses up for her dream. She dresses up for writing. She takes a shower for it. She shows up. She says she seduces it. She even wears lipstick for her writing. After I read that, I started making it a point to dress up is kind of an exaggeration, but instead of wearing pajamas or my sweaty exercise clothes, I'll take a shower, put on normal clothes. I don't sit in a beanbag chair anymore like I did forever with writing. I sit in a desk chair. I try to have my desk all tidy. So, yeah, how are you showing up for your dream? And then my favorite and final question: what is it costing you not to take action? Think about that. So when I asked my client this, she said very softly, I'll always wonder. Like that's what it's costing her. She'll lose her chance. She'll always wonder. She may regret it. And yeah, all I could think was you may lose your chance to share all the wonderful stories and creativity, imagination with others who would read them. So I consider it your moral obligation to fertilize these seeds that have been planted inside of you So if you're one of the cost would be you're not able to share this with other people. Anyway, think about that. If you're at the stage where you are not dreaming yet, don't worry, it will come. Be patient. And then if you are at the stage where you're dreaming, but you would love to sort of talk about it more, then schedule a coaching session with me. You can reach me on Instagram at Coach Hope Cook or email me hope.cook@gmail.com.